Welcome to Zero Filter by E, the podcast where we say things people think but don't say out loud. No softening, no pretending, no safe answers. Just real conversations about relationships, self awareness, boundaries, and the pattern people keep repeating without realizing. Because sometimes the problem isn't your standards, it's who you keep trying to apply them to. I'm EA, and this is Zero Filter. Let's get into it. You're not asking for too much. You're asking the wrong person. You're not asking for too much. You're just asking the wrong person to meet you at the level they were never operating on. And instead of questioning the mismatch, you start questioning yourself. This episode is about something a lot of people internalize too quickly, that their standards are too high, that their expectations are unrealistic, that they need to be more understanding, more patient, more flexible. And sometimes, yes, people can be unrealistic, but more often, they're just mismatched. Because what feels like too much to the wrong person feels normal to the right one. So today, we're breaking that down. The difference between compatibility and compromise, why the wrong people make you shrink, how to recognize alignment early, and why you need to stop negotiating your baseline just to keep someone. Compatibility versus compromise. A lot of people confuse compatibility with compromise. They think adjusting is part of making things work. And yes, healthy relationship requires compromise, but not at the level of your core needs. Compatibility means you naturally align on the things that matter: effort, communication, consistency, respect. You don't have to negotiate those. You don't have to teach someone to care. You don't have to explain why basic consideration matters. That's already there. Compromise, on the other hand, is about flexibility around preferences, schedules, differences in personality, minor habits. That's where compromise belongs. But what people do is they flipped it. They start compromising on fundamentals just to maintain connection. And now you're in a dynamic where you're constantly adjusting while the other person stays the same. That's not compromise, that's imbalance. Why the wrong people make you shrink? The wrong person doesn't just fail to meet your standards. They make you feel like your standards are the problem. They make you consistency feels like pressure. They make communication feels like nagging. They make emotional availability feel like too much. And slowly, you start shrinking. You ask for less, you tolerate more, you soften things you used to be clear about. You second guess your expectations because you want the situation to work. So you adjust yourself, and instead of questioning the mismatch. And the longer you stay in that space, the more you disconnect from your original standards. Until one day, you don't even recognize what you used to require. That's the danger, not rejection, distortion. Because now you're operating below your own baseline just to stay connected to someone who never met. How to recognize alignment early? Alignment doesn't need to prove itself. It shows early, not perfectly, but clearly. You can feel when someone is consistent without being asked. You can see when effort is natural, not forced. You can tell when communication flows instead of feeling like work. You don't have to chase clarity. You don't have to decode behavior. You don't have to question where you stand. And here's something important: alignment feels calm, not confusing, not unstable, not something you have to analyze every day. Because when there's alignment, there's no constant negotiation. There's understanding. And if you find yourself early on already questioning things, already adjusting your expectations, already explaining behavior, that's not a timing issue. That's a mismatch. And catching that early saves you from investing in something that will require you to shrink later. Stop negotiating your baseline. This is where people lose themselves. They start negotiating things that were never meant to be negotiated: respect, consistency, effort, clarity. They turn this into discussions, requests, conversations that repeat. But your baseline is not something you negotiate, it's something you uphold. Because the moment you start lowering your baseline to keep someone, you create a version of a relationship that only works if you stay smaller. And that's not sustainable. You can't build something real while suppressing what you actually need. Eventually, it catches up. Resentment builds, frustration builds, disconnection builds. Because deep down, you know, you adjusted too much. Not for the growth, but for survival. Let's be direct. Your standards are not the problem. Your attachment to people who don't meet them is. Because if you were truly clear on your standards, you wouldn't stay where they're consistently unmet. Because instead, you stay, you explain, you justify, you wait, you try to make it work, and in the process, you slowly convince yourself that your asking is too much. It's not. You're just asking someone who was never going to give them. And the longer you stay in that situation, the more you train yourself to accept less. So you ask yourself honestly, what standards have I been slowly lowering just to keep this connection? Am I asking for too much? Or am I asking the wrong person? If someone met me and at my level, would this even feel complicated? And the hardest one, am I staying because this works? Or because I don't want to start over? Here's the truth. The right dynamic doesn't require you to become smaller. It doesn't require constant explanation. It doesn't require repeated negotiation of basic needs. It meets you, not perfectly, but consistently. And once you experience that, you realize something important. You were never asking for too much. You were asking the wrong person. So the next time you start questioning your standards, pause and ask yourself, is this really too much? Or is this just not the right place for it? Because the difference will change everything. This is Zero Filter by EA. If you want the truth, stay.